40,000 people live on the Isle of Dogs now. In the next decade, that will grow to over 100,000. Which is why the Isle of Dogs Neighbourhood Planning Forum is committed to getting the infrastructure we need to be good neighbours.
The Isle of Dogs is the most intensive residential development in Western Europe, with dozens of closely packed residential towers reaching more than 70 stories high, already being built or in the works, each housing around 1,000 people. We're building Hong Kong in London, but without the infrastructure to support it.
I applaud the use of inner-city brownfield sites like the Isle of Dogs for desperately needed new housing. But we need very different infrastructure for residential use compared to light industrial or commercial, like schools and power. The thing is, most developers don't provide the infrastructure, just the residential buildings.
And most developers' payments to the council represent only a small proportion of the necessary infrastructure investment.
Like schools.
Or nurseries, or surgeries, or public transport.
Or schools.
The Greater London Authority stipulates that developments should be less than a quarter of the density that's typically being built here.
Residential development is happening so fast and so intensively on the Isle of Dogs that it is already outstripping the available infrastructure.
I'm the Mayor of Tower Hamlets, which includes the Isle of Dogs, which of course includes Canary Wharf, but it also includes some of the highest residential development densities in the country. I'm a great fan of neighbourhood planning forums. The question they pose to me is to make sure that we don't solve today's housing crisis by storing up big infrastructure shortages for the future. Developers are very keen to develop in our borough, and we can get contributions from them to help meet some of the needs, but we need a partnership of ourselves with City Hall and with national government to make sure that we meet the shortfall in funding for bits of infrastructure, whether it's transport or other public services. Most people buy into the future, but not at any price.
Neighbourhood forums bring unique insight into their community's needs and innovative policies to address them.
Neighbourhood forums are working.
What the Isle of Dogs needs is major infrastructure investment from central government, well beyond what the council, let alone most individual developers, can do.
Our core neighbourhood plan policy is simple, common sense.
Developments that exceed the maximum recommended densities in the GLA's London plan should only be approved after all the infrastructure needed to support them and other existing developments has already been identified and guaranteed.
Sounds obvious, doesn't it? But it's not what happens at the moment. Please make sure there are enough schools.
And doctors and play spaces. And public transport and parking and broadband and sewers and water supply and roads and dentists and police.
And schools.